everybody, Emily Shamel here for Hip Kit Club. This week I'm sharing with you a layout created using only the main kit and the Cardstock kit. I decided to use the super cute craft cardstock. I absolutely love craft cardstock and I'm so happy it's getting back into fashion. Yay! You know, we're starting to see them more and more around, so really pleased about that. I went on to cut a word out of it. I decided to use the word cute. The reason for that, it's a 4-letter word, so it's much easier to create a bit of a quadrants kind of effect, and I wanted to create a word that was definitely more structured and more geometrical. I drew it around my page using my ruler, so I centered it and then I just drew all my lines to create all the letters. I wanted to have a bit of a cut file effect really. It would have been much quicker for me to use my electronic cutting machine, but I wanted to show you that it's completely possible to obtain the cut file effect even if you don't have a machine, and all you need is a pen, a ruler and a lot of patience. This process took me just about an hour and a half all in all to draw it and then to cut it. Here is a little tip for you as well, to have the little half circle, well, very nicely rounded end of my letters. I didn't want to just hand draw it and have something that would be a bit off. I really wanted to achieve a precise geometrical effect. I used a bit of twine that I attached at the end of my pencil, and I used a needle to hold it at the middle. And it's simply because I do not have a little compass to round the end of my letters, so I decided to do it by hand. For the letter U, you will see later on that instead of having to use the layer twine system again, I decided to cut off the C and to report it onto where my letter U would be, simply because these shapes are exactly the same. It saves time and it makes sure that I really reproduce the same letter and the same shapes. In order for my shape not to wiggle about, I lightly attached the first shape with some washi tape. That ensured that my cardstock wouldn't be damaged or pulled away, and it also ensured that my shape wouldn't wiggle or move, or that I would end up having too much of a little mistake or accident while cutting around. I then went on and cut off the other letters. I forgot to mention at the start that I drew the letters back to front, and I drew them on the back of my cardstock. Well, this cardstock there, you'll see, hasn't got a back and a front, but I drew it on what would be then the back of my layout in the future. I am now looking at which papers to use to back my file, well, my letters, and I'm choosing some of the double-sided pattern paper. What I love with cut files and what I love with things like this is that it makes it very easy to use embellishments sparingly, because it takes the focus of your layout and it helps embellish your page with paper only. I really love a good cut file or a hand-drawn fake cut file to achieve that effect. And you will notice later on that I really didn't use a lot on my layout to decorate it. I also wanted to be frugal on this layout, And I used the cut off of cardstock from the letters to mount my fake cut file onto my background instead of using double-sided sticky foam pads. I simply glued together 3 layers of cardstock and then I glued them where I would have normally used double-sided sticky foam pads. This is a tip that I've learned from watching a few YouTube videos, especially with card making, and I think it's just a great idea for me to save on materials, especially that sticky foam pads can be quite expensive. So yeah, that's a really great tip if you like to add volume to your layouts, as I do. And you're using up the layer offcuts, and it's also a good way perhaps to use some old papers or any offcuts of or cardstocks or any cardstocks that you don't like the color of. It's a great way to use it up, and you could also even prepare them in advance and you'd only have to cut them off to size in the future. I think it's all a really great tip, and it's something that I will do more of in the future. Once I've attached all my layers of papers that will add my volume, I'm adding some PVA glue to it, and then I'm gluing my pattern papers so that they cover the holes of the letters and they'll be nicely visible on the other side. As you can see, now I am turning around my layout and it looks super cute just as it's written on it. I have decided to use very old photos of my brother and myself. Yes, this is me on here. And I thought it was simply because the colors of the photograph as well as the colors of the papers were a really good match. I haven't scrapbooked this photograph for a lot of years, and I thought it was time for a bit of an update on it and bring it back to the modern day. After moving it around a little bit on my layout to find the perfect position, I decided to glue it directly right in the center of my title. That allowed the letters to be slightly covered, but for the word to still make sense and to still be readable. I am then going through all the Hip Kit Club exclusive die cuts or ephemeras, and I'm pulling out all the flower bits and leaves as I want to create a kind of flowery side borders build up. It's something that I really enjoy doing and something that I love on my layout, and I'm really excited for the stamp exclusive kit that was with it, as it's all flowers and it'll allow me to create a lot of little flower accent and design in the future. But as we're only using the main kit for this layout, I pulled them out of all the ephemeras and I am now attaching them behind my photos. You might have seen that I curled the leaves slightly around with my fingers by rubbing them gently, and now I'm mounting all my flowers on several layers of double-sided sticky foam pads. Now that all my flowers have been attached and I'm happy with the embellishment, I'm moving on to my title, and I'm looking at which words would fit best with my photograph. I went with hello, and while I'm waiting and I'm thinking it through, I decided to pull out the stamps that came with the main kit, and I used the little one that said picture perfect. I then decided to go with the word bro, and just to make sure of the placement, I attached it to the packaging so that I could see through and have an idea of what it would look like on my layout. It saves me from having to glue it or slightly attach it to my photos. And if I'm not happy with the placement, when you pull them off, sometimes it pulls the ink of the photo off and it leaves a mark. So I wanted to avoid that, and I simply used the packaging, moved it around, and then happy with the placement, I placed it at the bottom of the photo. I added the Leo crown above my head because tongue in cheek. And now I'm adding a little strip of slight journaling. It just says my brother and I cut it, I roll it around the handle of my paintbrush, and I am attaching it to the layout. In the end, I didn't like the way I had rolled this little strip, what it looked like, so you will see that I take it off, I re-stamp exactly the same wordings because this little strip was a little bit damaged at this point, and I simply redo it and attach the new one instead. But before that, actually, I've added some little drops. My words evades me. I'm attaching some of the little enamels, dots, that's the word, around my layout. And now I'm restamping my layer wording on my strip of purple paper, and I am attaching it with my PVA glue. And this is it. This is my final layout. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure that you leave it a little thumbs up, any comments, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Make sure also that you subscribe to Hip Kit Club YouTube channel and check out all the beautiful kits. They're selling out so quickly and they're absolutely stunning. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.